Zapier menus are changing. Now, right alongside any Zap, you can access lots of useful data that used to be hidden away in obscure menus throughout the app. Today, we're going to talk about these new UX updates and how you can finally change some advanced settings that were never accessible until now. Hi, I'm Tom from XRay.tech, the workflow company. At XRay, we build automations with software like Zapier to help our members and clients save time every day. If you'd like to learn more about workflow automation and our services, check out our website at xray.tech. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the settings that you can now find directly in the Zap Builder and show you how they can save you money by giving you better control and visibility than ever before. Let's get into it. Inside the Zapier Builder, you have this canvas in the middle with all of your automated steps. And when you click on it, you see your normal settings on the right. On the left, we have a whole bunch of new options that have been directly added to the Zap Builder to help no-coders control how each automation runs in a convenient spot. First up is linked assets. Linked assets let you create and attach tables and interfaces directly to your Zap. So if you want to learn about tables, there is a video that we did about tables on the screen now. And if you want to learn about interfaces, there's also a video about interfaces that we added to the screen right now. Now, this is really useful if you're just getting started with your automation journey. If you don't have something like Airtable or Smart Suite already, and you're not using an interface builder like Softer or something else more complicated, then Zapier interfaces and Zapier tables are a great way to amplify your automations and keep everything under one app. And now you can see all of the linked assets, the tables, and the interfaces that are referenced inside of the automation right here on the top left under linked assets. Next up is Zap Details. This moved from a totally different place in the app, but now it's inside the builder. So you can see and organize the folder that this specific Zap is inside of. You can edit the time zone, which is really useful for scheduled triggers. Here we're not using a scheduled trigger, but the time zone would be relevant if you were using a scheduled trigger. And you can also create a template out of this Zap. So if you have a bunch of people on your team that you want to trigger the Zap for, maybe under different email addresses in this case, you would create a template out of this Zap and then be able to change the trigger configuration while keeping all of the other items identical. Next up is the notes field. Now, this isn't a new feature, but you might not have noticed it before, so let's dive in. First, you can add a description to the entirety of the Zap. And you can even generate a Zap description powered by AI. So just clicking here and letting it do its thing, you see that it describes the types of steps that are inside of the automation, and we can just replace that summary note right up top. This is really useful for long Zaps, or Zaps that you're working on with the team. Now you can also add step notes, and this is something that really helps as you're working with multiple people on similar Zaps, and you can specify notes about each individual step. So in this case, we'll just note that it's Tom's inbox. Now this saves you the hassle of clicking into each individual step and trying to understand what's actually happening there. You see this new icon appear and the note just pops in right on the left. So if I was in the builder, I can click on this notes icon and it shows what that note actually was. And you have the ability to add it to every step along the way. Then there's change history. Change history really helps you understand what has happened to the Zap. Has it been turned on? Has it been turned off? Now, this Zap hasn't been turned on or off since we created it just a tutorial ago. So I'm going to go ahead and publish it live right now. And we're going to say this is the first version. It's going to publish. I'll refresh the change history. Now we see that the first version of the app was published and it was turned on by my user. Again, as you have multiple people building in your Zaps, this is going to be really useful to show who is doing what inside of the automation. Now it's time for your most used left-hand menu item, Zap Runs. If you ever encounter an error or something going weird in your automations, Zap Runs and Zap History are going to be the two places that you want to check to see what exactly is going on. So first off, you can search any data that your Zap has processed. So if we want to search for a recent post here in this social media scheduler automation, we did a post about Notion. So if I search for Notion, I should be able to see the literal Zap run that has processed the word Notion. And when I click on the first one and look at the data out, I can see that, yep, right here, the post body included Notion. So I can replay the entire Zap here if I wanted to, but for now, I'm just using it to kind of trace back my steps to see what exactly happened. You can modify the date range, but note inside of the date range, you're limited to just 30 days. You can't do something like the last year. If you wanted to do that, you'd have to go to the Zap history. That's a dedicated page to view the Zap history of all your Zaps. Lastly is the status. If I just wanted to see, hey, what's delayed? I just need to click on that filter and remove the Notion search term. And now I see a few items that are paused, since this Zap pauses runs until the scheduled posting time. If I was checking for bugs and I wanted to look for stopped automations, I could check that box, but at XRay, we don't have errored automations here, so there's nothing when we search that. Instead, I can just click on success and see all of the successful plays that have happened in the last 30 days. If you're a power user, advanced settings here lets you finally control a bunch of things that you've probably been asking for a while. First up is auto replay override. Sometimes you don't want to auto replay a Zap that is paused or delayed, and you can finally turn off that setting here. You'll see a choice for error ratio override here. By default, Zapier will automatically turn off any Zaps that encounter a high number of errors. It's usually best to leave this setting enabled, but sometimes you might have a mission critical Zap that you want to keep running even if 1 or 2 steps are having problems. In that case, you can select keep running if errors occur to keep your Zap on even when it keeps encountering errors. However, I'd only recommend disabling this setting if you're closely monitoring your Zaps, because you could end up wasting a lot of tasks or creating other problems by leaving Zaps on when they're not working properly. If you have automations across several automation providers like Zapier, Make, and Airtable, you can check out our product called Guardian to help monitor all of your infrastructure at the same time. If you want to learn more about Guardian, check out the resources board for more info. But let's get back to this tutorial. In my opinion, these next 2 settings are some of the most useful ones here: flood protection and polling interval. Flood protection lets you configure how many times can this Zap be triggered at once. This setting is really in place to make sure that you don't eat up all your plan's tasks at once due to a setup error, like a misconfigured Zap that triggers on an infinite loop. But if you plan on moving large amounts of data at once with your Zap, you probably want to configure this setting with a higher limit. So if you're dealing with a migration of some kind, flood protection is going to want to go way up because you know you're going to be triggering this Zap a lot, and you want it to actually run that many times. So now let's take a look at the polling interval. If you're dealing with something that is watching for a new email to come in, or waiting for a webhook to come in, or a new record enters a view inside of Airtable, you can configure how often the Zap checks for a new record, or a new email, or a new item in a view, or what have you. In my opinion, you always want to put this number as low as possible. Note that Zapier doesn't charge you any more money for putting this number to, we'll say, 1, but on something like Make, you would actually be billed so much more money for changing that polling interval down to a smaller number. Now, this is the number of minutes between each check. So if you're trying to build automations that feel real time, you're gonna wanna have this polling interval set to as low as possible. Sometimes you'll see an item in the left-hand menu that has a notification number on it. This is the status button, and for now, it only appears when there's an active alert for your Zap. That could be anything from updating a particular app to something needing new test data or a warning for whatever reason. Now, statuses shows errors, warnings, and other information about each individual app inside of your automation. So if there's an app that's out of date, maybe in this case, Facebook issued an update to their app, and in Zapier, there might be new settings or new configurations that you could add. Now, often when you update, you'll actually need to reconfigure the step, and you can see that we started doing that here. But for now, we're just going to leave that be and be aware of it for if something does actually stop working, this would be a good place to look. Last in this main menu, but certainly not least, there's versions. Here, you can see every unique version of your app that you've saved since you initially created it. You can now see every single time that there has been a update with the little publish notes that you make when you click publish. So in this case, we can see that Matt changed the channel to XR content when there's a new alert, or that he removed the activity log steps back in June. This version control is really helpful if you just made an update and you need to edit from this version. If you want to roll something back, this is where you do it. Finally, at the bottom of the screen, beneath all the main menu items, there's Zapier's AI Copilot. When you click Copilot, you can just tell it to add additional steps to your automation. So let's say I wanted to send a prompt to OpenAI. You can make that request. And now I can just click this plus button and it adds it to the bottom of my automation. This is really useful and can just save you a couple clicks. Also, this help menu in the top right allows you to go directly to hire an expert. If you do, you can find XRay's profile right at the top here, and we are accepting new clients. 105 5-star reviews? Not bad. Zapier is constantly making updates to their platform. While a lot of these are pretty inconsequential, like the ever-changing style of the UI, some of them can actually be pretty important. If you're a Zapier power user, be sure to check out the new options for managing your Zaps right inside the Zap Builder. The advanced settings specifically will finally give you the control you've been longing for. If you enjoyed this video, prove you're human, like and subscribe for more automation tips every single week. If you'd like to learn more about low-code automation and workflow design, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, and you can find all of our content on our website at xray.tech. You can find all those links in the XRay Workflow resources board down below, and as always, find your focus and stay in flow.